half of the Summers twins.
And Aspen, the bestest half of the Summers twins.
That's not a word.
Of course it's a word. And unless I'm very much mistaken, I think it'll prove a rather useful one.
Wow.
That's from Mary Poppins.
We just did Mary Poppins. We weren't in it. We directed it at our theater camp.
At Stage Bugs.
Speaking of theater camps, we just saw this movie that
we can't talk about.
But we're just going to tell you that there's this hilarious movie out that will be funny for everyone, but especially if you're a theater person, you will love this movie. It was probably the funniest movie we've ever seen, but we can't say what it's called because there's a SAG strike going on and we're not allowed to talk about SAG movies. Except for, I was just listening to Armchair Expert and Monica was talking about the Barbie movie and she said that she could talk about it because she wasn't in it. But I've heard so many people say that you can't
talk about anything.
Yeah. Their podcast has a lot more listeners than ours, so... But anyways, we're still not going to say what the movie is called.
We're just saying if you are a theater person, you might want to try to do some digging because this was a limited release movie, so it's not in all of the theaters, but you might want to figure out what movie we're talking about and then go see it because it was really, really, really funny. I highly recommend it.
Yeah, and it's not a big studio movie, so... It's okay that we told you to go see it.
Yeah.
And we did say the name of it earlier in the episode. We just didn't say this is the name of the movie. That's our secret code. I'm sure you can figure out what the movie was. And if you can't, you can contact us privately and we'll tell you what it was called.
Also, we will tell you about it once we're allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, we will.
And then we'll tell you all of the funny quotes and then you
won't even have to go see it.
Anyway, today we're not talking about theater at all, so... If you don't like theater, you don't have to turn this off. We are talking about another one of our true loves, which is baking. We have been baking lovers since we were 3 years old, and we made a lot of really great invention recipes that included jelly muffins and salt and pepper popsicles. Jelly muffins sound good, but they weren't. And soup that we would make for our parents that was saltine crackers and bananas and cheddar cheese. So we had some pretty amazing inventions, but we also had one that was actually a gigantic success. We made this up when we were 3 years old. They're called special recipe cookies, and they are sugar cookies with chocolate chips, mini chocolate chips, and sprinkles. They are best if they are sprinkles that are Mickey Mouse shaped, and crushed up candy cane pieces. And they are
the best cookies you will ever have.
Yes, we were geniuses.
And we were 3 when we invented this recipe.
If you've never tried them before, you have to come to our house for Christmas and we will make them for you. Also, the cookie dough. Well, Ashley never liked cookie dough, except she does now, but she would eat that cookie dough. And I don't love a lot of cookie doughs, but this cookie dough and gingerbread cookie dough, I could just eat a whole batch of the cookie dough. So the cookie dough is amazing, but the cookies are even better.
We should make some special recipe cookies.
Okay, once we finish all of the other desserts on our counter.
Also, we named them special recipe cookies when we were 3. Sometimes people think that there's a different meaning behind that, but it just means it was our special recipe that we invented.
Yeah, it doesn't mean special like the gummies that Ashley accidentally ate a whole one of if you listen to our Message to the Future Generations episode.
If you didn't, you should go listen to it.
So that was the beginning of our baking love. And then, my mom was a really good baker, so we just always loved to bake with her and would bake Christmas cookies and stuff with her. And then when we were 9, Ashley decided that she wanted to open her own bakery. And of course, I wanted to help. And so then Ashley opened Ashley's Confections and Sweet Things. And
do you remember when I would keep track of my quote-unquote employees, and I had these little booklets that I stapled together of construction paper for, you and our parents, and whenever our friends would help me bake stuff, I'd, take notes on how good of an employee you were. Do you remember that? I had this, Aspen booklet, and I would write, Aspen was really helpful with this cookie recipe. Aspen is trying to take over my business because she told me I'm sure I have it in a memory box or something somewhere. I should find.
Yeah, you
like
should
I very
find it.
specifically remember writing that you were trying to take over the business because you made some suggestion or did something on the website, and I was really mad about it.
That doesn't surprise me. I remember that I would get so sad because I loved baking as much as you did, I think, and I always wanted to help bake stuff that we would take to family parties or things, and no matter what, every time we would bring stuff, it was always, oh, Ashley made cupcakes. Oh, Ashley, you did such a good job. And I would always be like, I helped too. But of course, Ashley thought I was taking over her business. So she'd be like, no, you only did one little thing, or you only blah, blah, blah. Or people just wouldn't care and they would just say, oh, Ashley did it.
I think you helped when we did stuff like that, but I feel like you didn't like baking then as much as you do now. Because I feel like when I wanted to start it, it was more something that I liked doing, but maybe not.
No, I think I always really wanted to do it, and we had this whole issue when we were younger that we would fight a lot about, well, this is my thing, because we always just wanted something to be our individual thing. But I was so excited about you starting it because I really wanted to be involved and help. And then I always just felt like every time that I would try to bake something, you would think I was taking over. And so I was always in the shadow because I loved baking as much as you did. And I just wanted to feel included. One time we both made s'mores cupcakes.
Yeah, and that was quite the concoction.
Mine came out really good. And Ashley put like peanut butter and candy corn in hers.
No, I didn't put candy corn in them because I tried to melt candy corn to put in it, and then it burnt into the bowl and I couldn't get it out. I went through this phase when I first started baking where most of the time, like if I was baking for other people, I would follow a recipe, but sometimes I just got really excited about new flavors and putting new stuff in my batter. So I was just putting everything in the kitchen in these cupcakes. I put peanut butter and marshmallow cream and chocolate milk syrup, which all are good things, but did not go together, and I didn't have proper measurements, so they were the densest, gummiest cupcakes.
I also remember that because I was so desperate to help, I kind of turned out to be
where this is gonna go.
The dishwasher.
Whatever.
So I think I would be like, I want to help, and then I would try to help a little bit, but then I wanted to just be involved, and then I would always get stuck doing the dishes. And now we'll do baking contests and stuff, and Ashley always takes forever, so I always end up being the cleaner-upper.
I'm sorry, I always tell you you can leave it for me to clean up.
I wasn't saying that for you to be sorry, I just want the audience to know.
You have a skewed perception of how our childhood went. I was like Cinderella, and she would always boss me around because she was 2 minutes older, so she would always tell me, I have to clean this up, I have to do whatever she says, and she would just sit on her little throne, bossing me around.
Yeah, right. Our mom was Cinderella. She would always clean up after you.
You're so mean to me.
I am not mean.
Yes, you are.
I do think I bake more now than I did when we were younger because it was just more of a process when you were younger and everything was a process. But I've definitely gotten to be a worse baker. And the reason is because I feel like when we were little, you were the one who would just throw everything into what you were making, and I always wanted things to come out right. So I would be very thorough and follow exact measurements and would never try something without a recipe. And now part of it is because I just want to use the ingredients that need to be used in our house, so I'll just use whatever we have. But I also hardly ever follow recipes. I'll always start with a recipe. If I have an idea, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look up blah blah cookies. And so then I'm like, okay, this is a thing that exists. And then I just throw stuff in it and see what happens. And so my signature dish this summer has been oopsies, is what I call them. And they are a variety of cookie where you have an ingredient in your house that really needs to be used.
Like blueberry shredded mini wheats?
No, they were strawberry shredded mini wheats.
Whatever.
But sometimes it's things that my parents are like, this needs to be gone. So I don't want to waste the food, and there are recipes that exist that use these things. So they're cookies that start with an ingredient that needs to be used in your house, and then you find a recipe that uses such ingredient, but then you end up without other ingredients that you need, or something bad happens in the process of making them. And then they come out like gummy, broken, grown together cookies that they still taste good enough that everyone will eat them. They just are a little interesting. The first time that the oopsies happened, you know when you buy shredded mini wheats and there's
like the frosted.
Yeah, the frosted shredded mini wheats, and then there's a bunch of like crummies in the bottom, and there's a bunch of biscuit pieces that don't have any frosting on them, which manufacturers, listen up. The only reason that those are worth eating is the pieces that have a lot of frosting on them. So when half of the box has no frosting on it, that is not acceptable.
Yeah. Give us our money back.
Yeah. So we had 2 half-eaten boxes of shredded mini wheats that the rest had no frosting or was like all crumbly at the bottom. And I was like, we just need to make something with these. So I found a recipe for shredded mini wheat cookies, because, you know, there's like cornflake cookies and Rice Krispies cookies. Like, there's the ones with the marshmallows, but then there's also ones that you can crumble them up and bake them into cookies. So this recipe used half shredded mini wheats and half flour. I had already gotten through half of the recipe, and then I went to put the flour in, and we didn't have any flour. Like, no flour, which, how do we not have flour in our house? We're baking all the time.
That's probably why we didn't have
Right. So we didn't have any flour, except for gluten-free flour, but gluten-free flour is really expensive, and obviously shredded mini wheats aren't gluten-free, so I didn't want to use the gluten-free flour, but I often make oatmeal cookies, and to make them gluten-free, instead of putting in the flour, I just make oat flour and like double the amount of oats. So I was like, I'm just gonna double the amount of shredded mini wheats, because you like blended the shredded mini wheats to make them into flour. So then I did that, and then I put them in the oven, and then they were like these gooey, sugary paste that came out of the oven.
That's a good way to describe it.
They all got eaten because they had a ton of sugar, because there was still a little bit of like the sugary frosting from the shredded mini wheats, and then I just wanted them to taste good, so I put a lot of sugar in, and then I put chocolate chips in. So they weren't awful, they were just really strange.
Yeah, but they were weird because they still had a very strong strawberry flavor, so it was just an odd tasting cookie.
Yes, it was. But then that happened many more times, because one time I tried to make peanut butter cookies, and I don't even remember what ingredient we didn't have, but...
Peanut butter?
No! I think I asked my mom what she uses, because we don't usually use butter when we bake. We use like applesauce or yogurt, but Ashley doesn't like the taste of applesauce in cookies, and I prefer applesauce than yogurt. So I asked my mom what she used in this particular recipe, and I think she said either that she skips the butter or that she uses extra peanut butter. So whatever I did, then they also grew into each other and came out super gooey. And then I don't even remember when the other time that happened, but like 10% of what I make comes out really good, and the other 90% I would consider an oopsies.
I don't think 90%, but there have been a lot of oopsies this summer.
Yeah.
The other problem is that we really like to do baking competitions, and there are often challenges that we get assigned, and so you have to follow the challenge, but then sometimes the thing doesn't come out tasting very good because of the challenge. And also it's difficult in our family because everyone has a bunch of things that they can't eat or they won't eat. So we have to try to make stuff that everyone can eat. We will often use gluten-free flour, and we can't use butter or oil, and there's a lot of those kinds of things that we can't use. So sometimes it comes out interesting.
But sometimes the things that I don't follow the recipe on come out amazing. I can't think of a specific example.
That mac and cheese that you made without a recipe was good.
Well, that's good. Yeah, Ashley's been wanting pasta wheels. And, well, for her birthday, I was making, like, nostalgic recipes, and we used to have mac and cheese with hot dogs cut up in it at our friend's house. We are vegetarian now, but there's meatless hot dogs, so I made mac and cheese, but then I cut up hot dogs in them, and then they tasted like fake hot dogs. So, but the mac and cheese seemed like it would taste good without the hot dogs, So Ashley's been wanting pasta wheels, and she's been wanting me to make mac and cheese without hot dogs in it. So I found pasta wheels, and then I made her mac and cheese, and I just dumped whatever I thought might make it better in there, and I guess I didn't think it tasted that great when I tasted it,
but you don't like cheese.
Yeah, so I'm glad that you liked it.
But I made mac and cheese this summer without a recipe. I mean, I kind of followed a recipe, but mostly I just made it up. You would think that it wouldn't be that hard to make it come out good because you just put milk and cheese,
but you did Greek yogurt in it, didn't you?
Yeah.
There's some of these recipes that use weird things, like there's this cauliflower pasta sauce that seems like it would be really gross, but I think it's really good. And we've made cottage cheese mac and cheese before that, then you bake it like a mac and cheese casserole, and I don't really like mac and cheese, but I like the cottage cheese mac and cheese. But there's also some weird recipes, like I think if you put Greek yogurt in pasta, it tastes like it should be a dessert. We did a baking competition one time that was like dessertified dinners, and
yeah, we did. You made like
fun.
Lasagna.
Yeah,
dessert.
I think I made like apple pie lasagna.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't that good, but you made some kind of grilled banana bread sandwiches with apple butter that were really good.
Those were really good. We do have some good tricks for baking. One of them is that instead of butter or oil, we will often substitute Greek yogurt or applesauce. I think it depends on what you're making, which one you use, because Aspen likes to use applesauce in everything, but I feel like you can taste it a lot. So if you're
not like chocolate cake,
but if you're making oatmeal cookies or something, I think you should use applesauce. But if you're making chocolate chip cookies or cake or something where you don't want it to taste appley, then I would use Greek yogurt.
Or if you're making like oatmeal raisin cookies or gingerbread or things that have spice in them, instead of doing butter, use apple butter, but use half of the amount.
Yeah, that's
it is
really
so good.
But the thing about this Greek yogurt trick is that we use it because our parents won't eat oil or butter, but then it makes your dessert chock full of protein, so then it's basically like you're eating protein and not dessert. And so I think everyone needs to try that.
Well, no, the even better thing about it is since we grew up not using butter in our desserts, it's probably just because we're not skilled at it, but if you use Greek yogurt in something you're trying to roll out, like a pie dough or especially rolled out cookies,
like cut out sugar cookies,
it is so much easier than using butter, because every time we've tried to make cookies with butter and we roll them out, the butter gets too hot and then they explode in the oven, and it's so
they spread in the oven.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating. But when you use Greek yogurt, it rolls out so much easier, and they don't spread in the oven, and it's really, really a great trick. If you have trouble with cookies spreading, or it's really frustrating for you to roll out desserts, then just try the Greek yogurt thing, because you will never look back.
Yeah, I'm surprised that it's not more of a popular thing, because we never have trouble rolling stuff out. And you don't have to chill the dough or anything because it's not butter and it won't get too hot and melt everywhere, and it holds its shape perfectly. And I mean, it tastes different, but we really like the taste, and we weren't sure if other people would like it, but whenever we make it for other people, they like it, and they'll often be like, I don't usually like sugar cookies, but these are so good. So everyone should try it.
Yeah, especially if you don't like desserts to taste super buttery, because I am a sweets person. So I want my dessert to taste like I'm eating sugar, not to taste like I'm eating butter. If I want to eat something that tastes like butter, I would eat buttered toast or buttered popcorn. Another good tip is if you have a gluten-free person in your family, you should buy the Great Value, which is the Walmart brand, gluten-free flour and brownie mix, because they are a lot cheaper than other gluten-free flour. And I actually feel like the Great Value gluten-free flour doesn't taste gluten-free. We make a lot of things with that flour because our mom is gluten-free, and it tastes really good. And other gluten-free flour brands that we've tried, it's not that it tastes bad, but it just tastes like a gluten-free dessert.
It has that like grainy texture.
Yeah.
And sometimes stuff with that flour will taste that way, but most of the time I think it works really well.
Yeah.
One thing that we are really, really good at making is ice cream. So if you ever want some homemade ice cream, you should come over to our house and we will make you some, because we have just made the best ice creams ever. I just made this strawberry ice cream last week. That was probably my favorite ice cream I've ever had.
the inspiration for this ice cream was there was this really cute old-fashioned soda shop that my dad took me to last year. It was called Sherry's Soda Shop, and it was in downtown Denver, and they had this strawberry golden Oreo ice cream that was so good. Well, first of all, I've always wanted to go to a soda shop, like an old-fashioned ice cream parlor soda shop thing, and it was the cutest place ever, and the worker there was literally the nicest person I've ever encountered at a ice cream place, because it took me like 15 minutes to decide what flavor I wanted, and I think I tasted almost every flavor that they had, and he was so nice. But this strawberry golden Oreo ice cream was so good, and so then Ashley was trying to recreate it. The ice cream that she made was really, really good, but also this soda shop closed last year.
And
Ashley
I never got to go to it.
Yeah, so if you live in Denver and you ever went there, or you want to go there, or you worked for Sherry's Soda Shop, let's petition for it to come back, because I only went there once, but that was definitely top of the list favorite ice cream places.
Also, if you live in Ohio, you should go to Sweetie's Candy Shop, an ice cream place there.
And if you live in Colorado Springs, we just went here. We were in Colorado Springs the other day, and we went to this frozen yogurt place called I Top It, and it was the best frozen yogurt ever.
It was so good.
I have this obsession with this raspberry pomegranate sorbet that I've tried at 2 different frozen yogurt places that I've just randomly found, and it is amazing. And then they also had this cake batter frozen yogurt that I'm not always a big fan of cake batter, but it was really, really good. And they had mango sorbet that Ashley was in love with. So yeah, you should go there. My famous recipes are I make the best French bread and gluten-free cinnamon raisin bread in existence.
Yeah, she makes really good bread.
So I think I should sell my bread. Here's the thing is I hate the French bread that I make. I think it tastes like eating a slice of baking soda. I think it's so gross.
It is so
But
good.
my dad and my sister are obsessed with it, and Ashley doesn't. She has a bread aversion lately, but she really likes that bread. One day, we made all of these desserts, and I was eating my dessert, and she was like, I think I'm just gonna have a slice of bread. And I was like, what? But I love making it because I don't usually make things that come out good, and so it makes me really happy that everyone likes it. I don't understand why they like it, because it just tastes like baking soda to me. And it doesn't even have baking soda in it. Isn't that weird?
No, because it doesn't taste like baking soda.
Okay, what other good tips do we have?
I don't know, but you wanted to talk about baking shows.
Yeah. So as we said, we really like to do baking competitions. That's like our go-to fun thing to do, which is inspired by all of those baking shows that you watch on TV where people get challenges and then they have to make something with whatever the challenge is. I like to watch those, but I also have some complaints about them, especially if you guys have ever watched that show Nailed It, where it's supposed to be people really fail at the things that they make, and it's supposed to be really funny.
That show is ridiculous.
Yeah, my complaint with it is that, I mean, I still watch it, but they give these people like 45 minutes to make these things that there is no way that they're trying to replicate these amazing looking desserts, but the people who made the example that they're supposed to be replicating probably made it over the course of like 16 hours, multiple days. There is absolutely no way that anybody, even a super professional chef, could replicate what is made in the time that they give them. And so I just think it's a little bit skewed because you're supposed to be like, oh my gosh, look at how awful of a baker these people are. But they're probably not actually as bad as they seem. They just have to like frost these cake pops that just came out of the cake pop maker or whatever because they don't have time for them to cool. And so then everything melts and like they can't make gum paste decorations and bake a cake or something in 45 minutes or 2 hours, or it's just crazy. So I would just tell you, if you watch these shows, to have some sympathy for these people because nobody could do it in that time.
Well, they also give them way more time on the shows where they're professional bakers than they do on Nailed It to make similar things. So it just doesn't really make any sense because you'd think they should give them more time when they're not very great of bakers, so that every single time we watch that show, we're like, what on earth are they doing? There's no way anybody could make something that fast.
I mean, obviously that's the gimmick of the show, so it's fine, but it stresses me out because I'm a very slow baker, and so when they're like, you have 45 minutes to make this crazy pop-up cake, and I'm like, what?
What is a pop-up cake?
Where you have something that is electric in the middle that, like, pops up out of it. And also I figured out how to be a judge on a baking show because I noticed that a lot of the judges, they all list 3 things that they can taste in whatever they made. They're like, oh yeah, you really get the orange and that hint of chocolate and the cinnamon, and they just like list things, and it sounds like they're being really thorough, but really they're just listing the things that are in the dessert. I actually think that they probably say a lot more things than that, but I started watching that Summer Baking Championship, and the last episode of it that I was watching, I was just cracking up because I felt like every single judge, they just listed 3 things, and I was like, I found this secret, because I always thought I wouldn't be a good baking show judge. I'm really good at judging ice cream and protein bars. Like, I can be very thorough in...
You could be on a protein bar competition show.
Well, I was just thinking that because I'm writing... For my Just Keep Eating blog, I'm writing a list of the best protein bars, and I was like, wow, I'm really good at the nuances of the flavors.
Wow.
But usually when I eat desserts, I can't describe how they taste. I'm just like, oh, this is good or this is gross. So I always thought I wouldn't be a good baking show judge, but we think we should start an ice cream baking competition because we'd be good judges at that. But anyway... My whole point is that then when I noticed that, I was like, oh, I probably could do that. Sorry, I'll stop talking, but I think being a judge on a baking show would be, like, the most fun thing ever. Mm-hmm. Besides being the voice of an M&M and being in a Progressive commercial, being a guest judge on a baking show is one of my you made it points.
Yeah, we want to be in a Progressive commercial.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to be Flo and Jamie for Halloween. If you don't know who Flo and Jamie are, you need to go do some research.
Yeah. Okay, what else? What are your baking fails?
The s'mores cupcakes when we were 9. That's the only one.
Yeah.
Everything else comes out perfect.
When I was 11, I made a wedding cake for school. It didn't come out that great, but it was pretty impressive for an 11-year-old.
Yeah, it was good for an 11-year-old. I made a really good-looking cake.
Yeah, you did.
We had this project in 6th grade where you had to do something, and that's a very... very good description, but that was literally what it was. You just had to pick something to do, and so Aspen picked to make a wedding cake, and that was when I had my major Broadway obsession, but I also had my major baking obsession, so I decided to make a Broadway cake, and it came out pretty decent looking. I think it also took us like 72 hours straight to make all of that.
I'm sure my mom spent a lot of time helping us and cleaning up the kitchen.
Yeah,
and
mine probably only looked good because I would mess something up, and then I'd be like, Mom, can you fix this? I still do that because I mess up a lot.
Yeah.
And somehow my mom just always fixes everything and makes it look good. And I always thought once I got older I would develop this skill and be able to just, like, fix things. But I haven't.
I know, me either. I don't know when that kicks in. Maybe once you give birth.
Yeah, it's just like a thing where if you mess something up when you're baking, then you say, Mom, can you fix this? And then she makes it look better. You can't get something open, and then she can open it or whatever. But I feel like I'm going to have a hard time when I'm a mom because I can't, and my kids are just never going to have their stuff open because I'm not going to be able to open it.
When I first moved to college and was on my own for the first time, I had this jar of salsa.
Oh, I remember that.
I couldn't open it, and I didn't have my mom to help me. Ashley was over at my apartment for some reason. She couldn't get it open, and then I asked my nice roommate, and she couldn't get it open, and I didn't know what to do, so I had to take a knife and, like, pierce the top of the jar of salsa. But it was like, I mean, not a glass lid, but it was a hard lid, so it was really hard to cut through it. And then I, like, sliced around it and then poured all the salsa into a Tupperware, or as much as I could get out, but I couldn't get cut all the way around the lid, so I was, like, trying to not cut my hand while I was spooning through the little slit that I made in my salsa jar. It was so sad.
That was quite the interesting experience. That's why you just shouldn't eat salsa.
Ashley doesn't like salsa. I
do
love it.
not. Blah.
Don't know why.
Because it tastes weird.
Well, I guess that's all of our kitchen stories we have to share for today. There's probably plenty more, but soon we're going to be talking about all the stupid things that I do, and there's probably a lot of stupid things I've done in the kitchen, so we can talk about those.
Yeah, everyone get excited for that episode.
Mm-hmm. Ashley said we need an embarrassing Aspen episode.
Because we've had so many where she just embarrasses me the whole time.
Yeah. All right, we'll talk to you guys next week. Make sure you listen because our inspirational in it for the next Twinspiration episode is so good.
Make sure you listen to all of the episodes.
Yeah, and share them.
Everybody share it with 5 of your friends.
And then we'll love you even more than we love you now. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to follow our podcast if you don't already. And we hope
that means subscribe.
Yeah, but on Spotify it says follow, not subscribe.
It does?
Uh-huh.
I never noticed that.
Well,
okay.
You learned something new
Well, then
day.
follow our podcast on Spotify.
Or anywhere you get your podcasts.